Hello, everybody. We're just getting situated and we'll get started in about a minute or so.
And will we leave the,
So everybody's coming.
will we enable the waiting room, or will we just disable the waiting room if anybody starts filtering later?
Yeah, it gets disabled, so everybody just comes in now.
Yeah, cool.
Great. Yeah. All right, welcome everybody. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Seema Alexander, and I'm coming to you live on day 2 from the WeWork, our co-working sponsor and partner in downtown Washington, D.C. If you don't know me by now, I'm the founder and chief strategy officer of Disruptive.CEO, where I work with visionary founders on growth and scale. I have the honor and privilege this year to be curating the growth track. So for everybody that's on this call that's focused on growing their business, this is the right conversation for you to have today in this minute. Specifically, I'm going to get into the details of this session in a few minutes. But otherwise, we also have 15 other workshops and panels throughout this week that are focused on marketing, on branding, on sales, on strategy, on people strategy, human resources, you name it, all the various things that you need to scale your business with some incredible experts, regionally and some that are not regionally, but they are amazing, amazing people. So for those who don't have the background, this might be your first session for DC Startup Week. DC Startup Week has been around for 5 years. It's a 5-day conference every September. On average, we have 100 panels, multiple speakers, on a couple different tracks. So this year we have the founder track, so more early stage, the growth track as I shared with you, the developer track, that's more IT tech based, creative economy, and culture track, which is a new track for us this year. We could not be doing a free event if we didn't have all of our sponsors and partners. I just want to acknowledge our title sponsors, Next, Insperity, Wiz, and Technology Rivers. So in this session, I am so excited to bring to our Zoom here, Coach Adam Cobb. Coach Adam Cobb of CoachAdamCobb.com. He is a peak performance coach, celebrity and athletic trainer, TEDx speaker, podcaster, and much, much more. He is going to provide you today with mindset, movement, and wellness techniques and tips to be able for you to focus on a CEO growth mindset. So I just want to share, remember, as a founder, we focus on sales and marketing and all the things I shared before, partnerships. But without being grounded, without having a growth mindset, without knowing techniques to help us be calm in the midst of, startup chaos, that can lead to overwhelm. So Adam's tips and techniques are used by actors, actresses, pastors, musicians, and athletes all around the world. And I'm so excited to have him here with us today. So with that, one thing I do want to say logistically is if you do have any questions throughout his talk, and he has different techniques, so you may be meditating a little bit, so you might have your eyes closed, but when it's appropriate, please put your questions in the chat, and he will try to answer them at the right times. So please join me in welcoming Coach Adam Cobb to the DC Startup Week stage. Coach?
Yeah, that's where you filter in the ha from the stadiums and everything. Thank you so much, Seema, for the intro. Hello, everyone. I would love to make this as interactive as possible. I believe when we have this interaction, then we can really get that that growth mindset, right? Growth often happens when we have engagement. So I would offer up the question that just comes up for you, even if it's right now. If it's like, okay, what's my health and wellness question that might actually keep me up at night, right? What's that thing during this pandemic? It's been a really different, a lot of different questions I've heard. And but let's start. We're going to break this down to 3 parts. I believe in something called an 8 days, here we go, 8 days a week mindset, 8 days a week wellness, And the only way to really do that is, and CEOs, actors, actresses, musicians, athletes all have that same mindset. They believe that when you look at them, you go, how did they get so much out of their day? And I believe that when you do these three things, when you move well, eat well, and think well, that you start to create more minutes. And those minutes might become an hour, and that hour might even become an extra day. And then you're operating from this place of high vibrating energy, clear mind, also feeling grounded. So I believe growth comes from deep, deep grounding. So we'll do that in our meditation, which is kind of that think well, that last portion. First, we'll do some movement. But I'd like to ask that if you can get out a notepad, a pen, notepad, or maybe take some notes in your phone. I encourage the notepad and the pen first. And also, I'm here in Tahoe doing this. I could be inside, but I chose to be outside because I believe the background, it's a real background. I'd like to show you guys, as this has been a time, 2020, to invest in not just our physical fitness, but also our mental, emotional, and spiritual fitness. And I believe if we can put ourselves in our environment, then it can create that. So first and foremost, I want to break down, let's get out that pen and that pad. And what I'd like to do is ask you a question to start. And that question is this. If you had an 8th day, 8 days a week, if you had an 8th day, what would it consist of? What would it consist of? So just go ahead and jot down a couple things. And it's very much the idea of like, what's that 1, that 2, the 3, maybe up to 5 things that you would do in that day. This is a day, this is your ideal day, the way that you would really feed your soul. When people talk about operating from a cup that's fully filled, that's where we're starting this 8th day from. So go ahead and just take another moment to jot down what that would be. What would that 8th day be? For example, I would be in nature. You know, I would do something with water, whether it's swimming or paddleboarding or something like that. I would be around music. I'd play with my puppy. I would absolutely indulge in the sunrise. So these are just some examples. And just to throw, I'm just giving you a moment to just jot these things down. Again, any questions come in, throw them in the chat. There's been lots of bunnies and squirrels in the background here, but there's also almost daily bears. So there might just be an audible moment where we'll just completely shift. And hopefully I see the bear before the bear sees me. Okay, so let's have some fun here. So what would you do with that 8th day? So now you kind of disperse that. You start from the 8th day. You think of, okay, if I create an 8th day, I'm going to now take these 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 things. I'm going to disperse them throughout my week. And I'm going to plug them into my schedule. And you can do that later. But I believe having this CEO growth mindset starts with realizing that you can cultivate an 8th day, that it is possible, and believing in that, right? Starting from filling up that cup. So our first chunk here will be that move well. And what I'd like to ask, your second question is, what does movement create for you? So if there was a fill in the blank, movement creates blank, what would that be? And the first thing that comes to mind, I'm going to go ahead and put that in right here. For me, okay, so for me, movement creates momentum. And I believe that's important. And I believe it's really important to create that distinction between, even the distinction between certain words. So oftentimes when I ask somebody about exercise, I get this response of, oh yeah, I just gotta exercise more. I got to exercise more. I should exercise more. And then I ask the question, what do you Freedom and excitement for life. Hello, thank you for that. That's really good. Freedom and excitement for life. Thank you for that. Movement creates freedom. And I believe that as well. I often say that too. That's really good. And the idea is like we oftentimes, exercise would be defined as what? And just do a little mental check-in with yourself. What does exercise mean to you? Oftentimes exercise will have some type of definition that will be like, well, treadmill, elliptical, weights, things like that. And what I like to say is that what if we could shift the word exercise to the word movement? What would happen? Because I think movement is more of a, I get to. Yeah, I want to move. And when you start to change that dial, you know, if it's a radio station, you turn that radio station to, and you shift from exercise to movement, something happens. And I've seen this happen in every one of my clients. When they start to send the invitation of changing word associations, it changes that dial in their mind. It changes their dial in their body, and they want to do that. So oftentimes I'll share with my clients, I like to share with you today, that the master's degree of exercise is movement. And then the PhD of exercise would be play. So then what does that mean? That means, how would you define movement? And movement might be more kind of free flowing, right? Movement might be some type of activity, more like, you know, walking the dog, something like that. And then when you can even step a little bit further and you step into this place of play. So you go from exercise to movement to play. Now what's play? Play is, you know, playing with your kids, playing with your puppy, playing, dancing, right? What does that mean? So all those things really matter. So I think it's really, really important to understand, you know, why we exercise, why we move, why we play. And there is a real sense of if movement creates momentum, if movement creates freedom, if movement creates energy, movement creates progress, right? Exercise now means living a long, fulfilling life for me. It's great. And there is a freeing that happens in movement. Oftentimes you'll never say, why did I move today? You know, why did I just do that workout? Very rarely. Okay. So I'd like to start, and I hope that you, join me. I'm going to start by standing up here, and we're all virtual, so we can all kind of just do this together and at your own kind of freedom and however you want to do this. But I'm going to share with you some of the real fundamental things. I morph training with physical therapy and things like something like the Egoscue method and Alexander techniques. A lot of it's alignment, and I try to get people into their bodies first so they can feel their fingertips and their toes, and they can feel like one with their body. And then once they feel, you know, your body is your machine, right? You don't need a gym. And I think if this pandemic taught anybody, if it's taught us, I'm sure there's many things that you've learned in this pandemic, but that's one thing that I've heard a lot is that, oh, I don't need a gym. And that I can use my body as my machine, and I can move and free and flow and everything. So I thought I would do that with you. And I'd ask that we'll just spend about 10 minutes or so in a little bit of movement. So let's go ahead and do that together. I'll move this chair. And I'm going to show you some of the basic movements. I believe that workout is very similar, right? We have apps that do all this now, which is really wonderful. And let me get back here. Okay, so, and the difference between most workouts are the same in the middle, but they're really different in the beginning and really different at the end. So I believe something called dynamic warm-ups. This is something that I start with every NBA athlete that I work with, but not just NBA athletes, everyone. I say NBA because that's like the most extreme athlete, but even the NBA athlete that's so finely tuned still needs to warm up properly. And I think oftentimes when we want to grow and step to that growth edge, right, growth edge of our wellness life that can create more energy, then we absolutely must move. Remember this, movement isn't a maybe thing, it's a must thing. So movement is a must, not a maybe. And you must move, we must move to create more energy, create more freedom in our body, and create more flexibility. So let's just start together. So, and if you're just watching me do this and not participating, you know, it's kind of strange, you know, I want you to, I want you to do this with me, right? Let's make this interactive. Let's do this together. Let's create a real shift in our bodies right now. So you might have already done a little bit of movement, but move with me. And these are the real basic things that I'll start any movement. And this could be even a very light morning movement. You know, there's nothing like starting your morning with some movement. So here's a way to do that. We're gonna basically just balance, right? So you're gonna come up here, we can grab our right knee and we're just gonna balance for a moment. We're gonna hang right here, okay? 3 things that I see always happen. Shoulders kick up, so make sure the shoulders kick down and make sure that the hips aren't swaying too far forward. So make sure you're sitting back a little bit. Maybe there's a little pelvic tilt action in here, okay? And then just release your jaw. Everybody holds so much tension in their jaw. So when we're up in this position, we're working on our posture, working on our core engagement, and we're working on our balance. So it's a movement that really instantly grounds us, right? And then we'll switch sides. And oftentimes, you know, people like to get that workout in the morning. And I'm a big advocate of that because you can make sure you get it done. But oftentimes people don't like to do aggressive workouts in the morning because they don't want to use all that energy. But doing a 10 to 20 minute workout first thing, just get your body moving, just get it moving, starts to create that energy, starts to create that that nature, that positive nature mood, right? So that's one, okay? And then the second thing, so one, right, the whole balance. The second thing is just a real light skipping in place. So we've all skipped as kids, but now we'll just do a little skipping as adults, right? So we're just skipping forward, and then we're skipping backwards. And again, skipping forward, and skipping backwards, right? And what this does, it starts to warm up, keep going, keep skipping forward and backwards. What this starts to do is it starts to warm up the fascia, right? Which is basically this like invisible force field on the outside of our body. And if we can warm up the fascia on the bottom of our feet, and just like foam rolling, if you're into foam rolling, but this would be something where you can hit the bottoms of the feet and you can start to create activation from the ground up, from your foundation, from your feet up, okay? So now we're here, and then we're gonna do the same thing, but we're skipping one direction. So now we spend a lot of our day doing everything forward, but we don't spend a lot doing things backwards. And we definitely don't spend a lot of time doing things left or right. So make sure we add in a little bit of lateral move, right? And we go back. So that's our first kind of movement that could create a little bit of elevated heart rate. And we go right back to that standing pose, shoulders, not up, but back and down. Deep breath in, a little bit longer exhale. You know, there's a standing meditation, a walking meditation. Meditation doesn't always have to be laying down or sitting down with the eyes closed. So this could be an active morning meditation that involves a little bit of movement. Okay, so we just did that move. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna move side to side here. Okay, so we'll start here and it's a lateral lunge. But again, we're not doing it necessarily for the aesthetics of what this is. We're moving here because what we wanna do is wake up our body and unlock its capabilities. So we're increasing flexibility and mobility, right? And that is energy. It's like unlocking our energy source. So we're going to one side, here we go. And we're just kind of getting in it. You'll feel that in the groin, right? You'll feel it. You might even just do a little tap. I think I'm very kinesthetic, maybe you are too. But when you tap, make sure that that glute is firing. Common mistake is that people keep this one bent, okay, or lean too far forward, or you don't square the shoulders. So we're just in that, and then we go to the other side, right? Yep, we're stretching that groin, we're opening up, activating, okay, back here, and then back to the other side. right? Really, this is a groin stretch, but also it increases ankle flexibility. So if you did this and your ankle picked up, make sure your ankle stays down. So these are like these common every day. I'm in Tahoe now, but I live in Brooklyn, New York, and even as simple as stepping up on that sidewalk, right? Everyday activities, ankle flexibility, right, will save you. It will keep you from getting a really bad injury, and we just don't have time for that, right? Okay, so that's one, and then we go right back to our standing in place. Okay, standing in place. Any questions regarding movement, throw them in the chat. Okay, so we're going to do a movement that I believe that you and everybody right now needs, and this is a hamstring stretch. I believe that most of our hamstrings have been so tight because we've been operating from home a lot and sitting so much more than ever before. So what we're going to do is we're going to stretch that hamstring. So it just looks like we kick the hips back, heel down in the ground, toes up. Okay. Okay, so let's just get a couple of these in, and then I'll start to just break down the form, and I'll try to do different angles. Hopefully this could help you. Here, okay, so common things that I often see, so keep doing that. Often, if you're rounding the shoulders, just to get to the toe, not the point, right? Shoulders retracted, and almost as if you're pulling them back, and then you reach out to that toe, shoulders are retracted back, and they stay retracted, and you'll feel that deep stretch in the hamstring. And the more you point the toe, the more you point the toe, you'll feel that in the back of the calf and the back of the knee, right? And hamstring, right? And then back up, right? And then we're going to add one thing to this, and this is a posterior delt, back of the shoulders. Again, we're doing everything forward. So we're coming back here. So post delt activation. So it looks like this. Okay, we're going to add the hamstring in a moment. So you're coming up here, activation, back of the shoulders. Again, we're all day forward. So now we're making sure we do this in a gentle way. But we're coming down now, hamstring, and then back up, retraction. Just like that. Breath in, breath out. Breath in, breath out. All right, so we're getting that back of the shoulder and hamstring stretch all at one shot here. Yep. Okay, and then we'll do it forward. So same thing, you're getting just a little bit of that action forward. And then we're getting a little bit of that action backwards. Okay, we shake that out a little bit. I don't know how much space you're working with where you're at right now. We're going to do something that's going to, one of the things that gets really tight, especially as we get older, is our backs get really tight. So anything to be able to move the upper, it's called the upper thoracic, and to get that to shift left to right, side to side. So we're going to end up turning, and this is just kind of like a modified salsa dance, right? And so just a little bit of turning the hips. Here, we keep the shoulders facing forward, and then our hips turn, and we cross our feet over and under, okay? And then as we start to feel a little comfortable, we really start to move. The whole thing is, let's move our hips. Right? And the more we move our hips, the more we move our spine, and the more we open up that like thoracic mobility, and that creates energy from the ground up, right? We shake that out, back to the one knee. Again, never, this is, I would say, the most underrated movement that you could do, is just kind of holding that right in this space. Okay, good. And the last one I want to show you here, again, this is just a really great way to either energize your morning, even in that 3 o'clock kind of lull when most people get a little bit tired. It's like a quick little pick-me-up. I guarantee this will give you more energy than a 3 p.m. coffee will do. So let's go ahead and just try this. This is called a gate swing. What happens, especially as we sit a lot, our hips get nice and our hips get really tight. So we're going to open the hips up. So we're here, we kind of come down here, open hips, and then come back to base. Okay, and then back here and up. Common mistake, rounding of the shoulders at the bottom. So make sure that you're up, and you can push off your legs a little bit. Breath in, breath out. Breath in, breath out, right? Breath in, breath out. And I'm gonna give you 2 modifications, especially if somebody's on the other line right now and watching this and saying, hey, I just wanna kick this in. This is like, this is a growth mindset. This is next level. Let's do this. So this is the exact thing that I have my MBA guys do, and they do 3 sets of this for 30 seconds, okay? So it's this move. I'm just gonna speed it up. So I give you, and this you could literally do every single day, and you get a really nice strong core, abs, and lower back. You start to really define your arms and your legs. So this is, I feel like, one of the top 5 movements I'd recommend for like an overall body blast, right? And just something that gives you quick energy, also increases flexibility. So we come down, up, and then we would just do that forward. And you push off. So you should feel your triceps at the top. You breathe as you go up. So you would do this for 30 seconds, okay? And then we would go right into a second set where you would come down, but now this time cross your legs. Right, so you come down, cross your feet, and then you do the same thing. Start going forward and go backwards. And if you've never done a lot of backwards work, it'll feel uncomfortable, a little awkward at first. And I would say just fight through that, okay? And now the third version. So this is kind of a combination of that, twisting that spine a little bit in a safe way. Okay, so you'd come down, and as you come up, you turn and back down. Okay, so let's try it together. Right here, and down. And then you go the other side, and down, turn, down, turn, down. And you do the same thing, forward. Shoulders are gonna wanna turn, don't let them. Make sure the shoulders are facing forward. And back. Okay, shake it out. Remember, it would be fast, and it'd be 30 seconds or slow, and 30 seconds. You can repeat each of those, 3 sets of 30 seconds for each version. Remember, ground through each foot. Big breath in. Shake it out a little bit. Shake out the body. Okay. I'm gonna come back in here. Gonna be sweating a little bit. The sun's out. And I think the real key to living a healthy lifestyle and having the energy from the moment you wake up to the time you go to bed, and make sure that you created a day that you knew at the end of the day that you're on E, right? That you don't have a full tank at the end of the day. You're on E, you're empty, and it's time to rest, restore, and fill up. And I know that you want to have those kind of days because you're maximizing, you're living to your fullest potential. And one of the keys for that is getting enough hydration in. And I'm going to go into, that was the move well portion of that. Again, any questions, please ask. I see a couple here. I'll address the stiff shoulder in a moment. But I would say that, health equals hydration. Hydration equals health. So getting your proper hydration. So let's get the waters up. Cheers with water. That's my sign out for every email that I kick out. But cheers with water. Cheers to you. And cheers to saying yes to you. Yes to your ability to pour into your self-care. This is a time where a lot of people aren't making space and time for that because it's like, no, I have to focus on my business. I have to make money. I have to really, and it's like, and we have the opportunity right now. And I would say not to create routines, because I believe routines can have a sense of rigidity to that. So like a morning routine and certain routines, well, in a pandemic, routines have been thrown out the window, right? Because you don't have that sense of normalcy. So if you go back to that word routine and you just shift it, just like we did exercise, we shifted exercise to movement and movement to play. Let's shift the word routine to the word practice. And just like check in with yourself. How does that feel? The word routine has a sense of feeling rigid. And when your day is completely different than it normally would be, and it's like that for 6 months, and eventually as we start to get back into a social environment, practices won't fail us. Routines often will. So I would say change that word to practices, and that's a daily practice. And what do you want to start to make a daily practice for you? What would help improve your movement life, your nutrition life, your ability to think well, think clearly, to manage stress better, right? What kind of like healthy practices would increase that? So hopefully by the end of this, that you'll have a bunch of those that you'll know. Say, hey, I'll dedicate myself to these 5 practices that I'm going to do. Okay, I want to address one question here quick. Thank you for it, by the way. It says, question, any suggestions for a stiff shoulder? 3 things. Number 1, that movement here, right? You come in like we just did for the hamstrings, that really opens up and it starts to work all those sits muscles, the infraspinatus, subscapularis, supraspinatus, and teres minor, right? Those are the SITS muscles inside the shoulder. So when you just activate here, that's one thing for the stiff shoulder. Another thing that people don't think of is when they sleep is when they often get that increased stiffness. So you could, when you go to bed, you could just put a pillow underneath your arm, or they actually have something where you can kind of wrap it around your side and it keeps like a soft cushion here. And what that would do is it would prevent you from rolling onto that stiff shoulder. So that's a really nice kind of like hack there. And then the last thing I would say, as far as stiff shoulders, to making sure that you have like those physical therapy bands, and you really start to work this range of motion. So the band would be attached over here, and you'd be pulling that band this way, and you get that kind of outer rotation, and then you do the same thing here, right? So you're just moving that shoulder. Any way to, the way to get a stiff shoulder unstiff is to move it, but move it gentle, okay? All right, so let's shift. Let's make a quick shift here. Thank you for being here, by the way. I think I said that, but I want to say it again. And let's shift in now from movement, the move well piece, to the eat well piece. So when it comes to eating well, any nutrition, what I love to do is take the guesswork out of eating well, the guesswork out of diet and nutrition for my clients. And we do that relatively quickly, but that's because I'm able to interact and back and forth. So anything that you have around questions right now around nutrition, diet, whatever that may mean for you, please put them in the chat now. And let's do that word association game. So we already shifted a couple words into words that I believe could help build your momentum. So let's also now shift the word diet into healthy eating, right? Real simple. If you look at the word diet, D-I-E-T, and you take off just one letter, what is it, right? It's diet, D-I-E, and we don't want to do that. So why would we want to diet? So oftentimes diet is a short-term solution for a long-term goal and achievement and result that you want. So let's think about that, more of those long-term healthy years. That's our focus, right? So what does that look like? Healthy lifestyle, healthy eating. What I'd like you to do is, if you can write down the what of nutrition, and then write down, and I believe that is the least important part in the equation. And you might say, like, Coach, what do you mean? And it's the least most important thing, because you have a general idea of what to eat and what not to eat. But the challenging piece is when you shift again from that what to all of a sudden to the when, and you start to think, oh, I never thought of the when. Yeah, when are you eating? When are those time frames? And you start to think not only the when, and you plug in your when. So go ahead and take a moment right now. What is your when, right? And now shift not only to when as you're writing that down, but write down why. And why are you eating what you're eating, right? Write down that. It's really powerful. You'll have your own distinctions and your own breakthroughs, your own aha moments. And hopefully we can have that on today's workshop here. And then also write down not just the when and the why, but write down the who. Because if you have real strong, powerful goals when it comes to your healthy lifestyle, then you might have to shift from who you were eating with before to who you want to eat with now, and kind of shift into a new place with your nutrition. And then lastly, if you could write down the how. how are you going to do this? How are you going to eat for that? How sounds like um, the how of nutrition, the how of wellness often speaks to the food prep, right? That's important. And not only that, but I would tell you that, and you might want to write this down as one of those things to hold on to or things to write down, maybe put it on the fridge. But I believe that the slower you eat, the faster your metabolism goes, or at least the slower you eat, the increase your energy flows, right? So those are two big distinctions. And I believe that when you start to eat slow and you start to become that friend that wins every slow eating contest, you don't even have to tell your friends that you're doing it. You just have to check in with them and think, yeah, like I'm winning this contest, a slow eating contest, and nobody else needs to know that they're playing. Okay. But what you'll find is it's hard to do that. Most people eat even their dinner within 5 to 6 minutes. They put their head down and they eat. And then if you put the TV on and you eat in front of the TV, then sometimes you just keep eating and you don't stop, right? And that's oftentimes one of those things when it comes to changing a squirrel is literally approaching me at the moment. So just making sure the squirrel doesn't get up in the shot. So when it comes to these like little hacks around nutrition and wellness, I want to throw a couple things out here. One, oftentimes when you want to, but also you want your family to start eating well, you change where you put those or how you create that dynamic in your family. Here's another how, is that you'll put the healthy food, whether that's nuts or dried fruit or whatever that may be, in glass containers so that you see the healthy food, right? Because you might say, well, like, my kid's not going to eat all this. Okay, no problem. But just try it out. Put the healthy food inside the clear containers and then put some of the other things that does not fall into that bracket. The things that probably when you eat them, you have a little energy dip, right? Something like that. You'll put those in like black containers, right? And see what that does. Google did this over 12 years ago, and they did it for their staff. And what they found was that the percentage of people eating healthy things like nuts and fruit and healthier snacks over chocolate and candy increased substantially just because they shifted from the glass to the dark containers. So that's just an easy thing for you to do at home. Another thing is simply do this. And if you do this one thing, I guarantee this will change the way that you even think about food. And it's this. I don't have it with me, but we'll just pretend that this is a fork or a spoon. So you're eating your meal and you simply take a bite and you put your spoon and fork down. You just put it down. And I want you to have a laugh at this. Check in with yourself today. And as you're having that meal, try to just make sure you put your spoon or fork down between every bite and see what happens. You'll find yourself not doing it every bite, but I guarantee if you do that every bite, you'll increase, the speed at which you eat your meal probably by double. And if you can slow that down, you give your digestion a chance to process it all, and you allow, again, when we eat, we should have an increase for energy. So I would say that eat for energy, right? Oftentimes we have conditioned ourselves to just think that when we eat, it's like, oh, I had a good meal, can't wait to go sleep now. Well, energy is, food is energy. It should elevate our energy. It shouldn't put us to sleep. So we're obviously not eating the right foods, or we're eating too fast and we're not grouping it well. So all these things are, really important to address. Hopefully some of this is landing and you can make these real practical applications to your life. I'm just going to take a quick glimpse into the questions here. What do you think about intermittent fasting for weight loss? Great question. That's one that's been really an important question because a lot of people are doing it. So I believe that for the actors, not the athletes, but for the actors that I work with, sometimes they do intermittent fasting because they're trying to get ready for a specific role in a short amount of time, and that they get results really quickly. And I believe that that you could do that too. You could I believe it's always important to talk to your physician, functional medicine practitioner, whoever that is for you. But can you do it? Yes. And most people follow the 16 fasting, 8 feeding windows. So you don't eat for 16 hours and you eat for 8 hours. And what I find for the most part is that this is another way, intermittent fasting is another way to get short-term results, right? And really what people want for long-term lifestyle success. The results for me, people do lose weight, absolutely. But what I also find is that a lot of people get dizzy on it, and a lot of people are they're malnutrition. So they're nutrient low rather than nutrient dense or nutrient high. And I just want everybody to be nutrient high. I want you to have your macro micros, your nutrients at a high level, and making sure that we're doing that. I think oftentimes it's definitely an easy way to get the results. And I shouldn't even say that because it is challenging. When you do your 16-8 windows, it's challenging. But just make sure if you do choose that route, that versus having dinner, having breakfast, lunch, or dinner, that when you start to eat, this is the thing that I see often most people do, is they have a meal that isn't a slow, gentle integration into digestion for the day. So they'll have like a really heavy meal, the first meal of the day, and that doesn't work. It needs to be gentle on your gut because now you're fasting and your body is now absorbing, and it needs to be gentle. So make sure that first meal, you check in with yourself. And if you wait 16 hours and your first meal puts you at a very low energy levels, then you're not having the right food to kind of warm up your engine. On the other side of it, I believe that this right here, our nutrition, our body's a furnace. And if you think about it, where I've seen people get the best results for like long-term lasting results is when you think of their body as a furnace. And if they're starting a fire, if you put too much wood on the fire, it burns out and it dies out. And if you don't put enough wood, to the fire and to the furnace, then it dies out as well. So I love the idea that this is a furnace and we gotta keep it warm. And how to do that is having that nice full breakfast. And I love the idea of that, eating like a king or queen for breakfast and eating more like a prince or princess for a lunch, and then eating like a pauper, right, for dinner, and having those meals progressively get less. Another key thing that I've seen people do and have real success with is I was in Paris on a movie in 2016 working with a few actors. And after every meal, what we would do is we would go for a walk, and Paris is so much to see. But I'm sure if you started to like really chunk that time, so after dinner, you just go for a nice, gentle after dinner walk. It's something that you'll see some really good results with, and it's gentle, right? It's just a light movement, and you also see your sleep, the quality of your sleep increase. Okay, well, we are 15 minutes to go here, and thank you for being here. Thank you for just like, being 46 minutes in, on a health and wellness talk. Really appreciate it. And I just want to quickly check in here. Love that. Easy to remember. Great. Perfect. Okay. Any questions here? Anything that comes up right now regarding anything we've talked about? I'd love for you to just shoot that out there. I'm going to check in with your questions. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. So one of the questions is any tip for sciatic pain? I wonder if I'm sitting too much, working from home on the computer all day. So yes. All right. So Linda, let's do this one, because this is a question that I've been getting a lot of, and that's why we did that hamstring stretch. I truly believe that if you could work just a portion standing up, and that could be just putting a couple boxes and put your laptop up on that, or however you can create that, or set an alarm every 50 minutes, you stand and kind of walk around for 10 minutes. Oftentimes that sciatic pain is from sitting too long. It's also from not drinking enough water, and then also an easy stretch to just throw out there quickly would be just this stretch right here. You're sitting, you simply cross your foot over your knee, and then you take this arm of the foot that's up and over, and then you drop it inside that space that you made and just let it fall. And that's a really great stretch from that lower back all the way to like your IT to the insertion point on the inside of the knee, the medial knee. Hopefully that helps. Great question. Yeah. And Stan, and there's this really cool statistic that Seema knows, and we've talked about it before, that if you, it was a Stanford medical that shared this statistic, and I loved it. And it says that if you stand for 4 hours out of a typical 8-hour day, which I know we work a little bit more than that, I'm sure, but if you stand for 4 hours out of an 8-hour day, and you do that for the year, so 5 days a week, standing for 4 hours while you're working, stand-up desk, something like that, then at the end of the year, you would have burned the same amount of calories as if you ran 6 marathons, right? There's a lot of movement by just standing. So it's a really easy way to kind of hack a little bit of your health. So thank you for these questions. Going ahead, sweet. Seema, love you. Great job with this. And we're going to go ahead and finish here in a deep breathing meditation. So we're going to dive into, we just talked about move well, eat well. Now we're going to finish off with the think well piece. Oftentimes people say, but I don't know how to meditate. And I just want you to know that, like, you're a great meditator. You already are that. And the reason is because breathing is meditation, and meditation is breathing. And guess what? You're breathing so well already. So no pressure. You don't have to do anything more than you're already doing. What we're going to do is just add a little bit of intentionality around your breath. And we're going to breathe in a way that maybe we're not as aware of, but you're still doing it. You're already great at it. Take the pressure off. I want you to know, some people might say, well, you know, I'm trying to be, top of my game. I'm trying to grow. Again, I'm going to step to that growth edge, and I don't have time to meditate. Let me share with you this, that 1 minute of meditation is equal to a 5-minute nap. And we all know that a 20-minute nap is that like magic number that you at 20 minutes that you get that instant like refresher, right? And we know that because there's been so many studies that show that. So then do the math, right? What that means is a 4-minute meditation is equal to a 20-minute nap. And you can get that in the middle of your day when you're feeling a little lull, and you just sit down. So I'm going to guide you through a very short meditation. This is something that I share with all my CEOs, all the CEO clients, athletes, actors, etc. And it's something that they can do, and they can do in the middle of their day. And so let's just go ahead and get comfortable in our seat, and let's kind of like sink into that a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and hit a little timer. You're going to hear a gong, and then you'll hear another gong. It's going to be short. Okay. We're going to do a 4-minute meditation. Okay, so let's begin. Let's just get into our seat, sink a little bit deeper in wherever you're at. And we're going to take a moment. And what this is a simple pause. We're learning how to take a pause. You're going to hear a gong. And I invite you just to close your eyes. Let me close our eyes to do a check-in, to feel. Sometimes when you're listening to music, you close your eyes and you lean in a little bit so you can listen to the words. You can start to feel the words. Or when somebody's speaking to you, you might do the same thing. And I ask that you do that for yourself right now. That you close your eyes. You put one hand on your heart, another hand on your belly, and we simply breathe. Sometimes we need to learn how to take a time out. Because just like in athletics, that timeout gives you a chance to rest, recover, step outside yourself, assess the moment. But I believe this timeout can act like a pause. And if we can take daily pauses, I believe you can step deeper into your presence. into that present moment. And if you compound the positive effects of this pause that allows you to step into a deeper level of presence, will also allow you to step into a deeper level of progress. And I know you want that. Let's bring our awareness back to our breath. Make our exhale slightly longer than our inhale. One of the most powerful things we can do to step into our presence and into this present moment is to get out of our heads and get into our hearts. And our breath is the bridge to be able to do that. To get to our head, to our heart, to get to our brains, to our bodies, to drop deeper into our presence. I want to take this brief moment to acknowledge you. Thank you for saying yes to you today, saying yes to your self-care, saying yes to your self-love practice. You cared on yourself. You gave yourself the gift of generosity. Knowing that we don't have to bring anything more to this moment, that you are already enough every single day, and that you don't need a special app or anything else to have a deep, restorative, breathing, mindfulness, meditation practice. Because your breath travels with you wherever you go. Fall deeper into our seat. Let's just do one full collective breath together, and we'll breathe in, inhale for 4 seconds. Hold for 2 seconds. And a full release for 6. Take your time, slowly come out of that. You might sway left to right. No rush. You have time. You have time. Even when you don't think you do. At the end of a meditation, I like to ask my clients, and I'm going to ask you right now, what are you grateful for? What's the first thing that comes up? Go ahead and write it down. My clients, I lead them through meditation and through their mental fitness. They oftentimes, I suggest that they have their journal open, and whatever might come up in that meditation, I have them just write it all out. You know, there's real power in being able to kind of put it on the page. And one of my mentors shared with me that writing for the brain is as therapeutic as a massage for the body. And I believe that we've oftentimes lost the art of just writing because we're typing so much. So just getting that pen or pencil and writing it out. So what are you grateful for? Is my question to you. And just want to say thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for investing into what it would mean to have 8 days a week wellness incorporated in your life. Thank you for having me. Coach Adam Cobb. It's been a pleasure. And I'll close with cheers with water.
Thank you so much, Adam. I really appreciate your talk today. And it was so nice. I personally am grateful for taking a moment out of this busy day, running all of these amazing events today to take a breath. So I really appreciate that.
Thanks for taking that breath, Corey.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day, guys.
Thanks. Bye-bye.